Alright, so in this video we are going to be talking about solving inequalities using addition and subtraction. The big thing is inequalities really are not solved differently from equations. So we're going to solve them exactly the same way as the equation. So when we start to solve an equation, we identify that equal sign. And this time it will be an inequality sign. And what number are we trying to get rid of? To get the x by itself would be the -3. So the opposite of minus, just like in equations, is to add 3 to both sides. And I get x. And just like equations, we're going to bring down our inequality sign. And 5 plus 3 is 8. So x is less than 8. Most of us are visual people. That's why you're watching YouTube. So when we do this, we also like to graph this answer because it's all the numbers that are less than 8. So I'm going to put 8 in the center of my number line. And if 8 is here, I know 0 is back there, so that's the way that we're going to start counting. I'm going to put a 7 down here, 8, and then 9 would be here. When we graph these things, it is just less than 8. So is 8 less than 8? No. So we're going to have an open dot, and then we can shade the way the inequality sign tells us to. It says less than, so we shade to the left. And you can also think of this inequality sign needs to also go at the end of your graph. This is a less than sign, that is a less than sign. So solutions are what we shaded. Answers or solutions come from the shaded area. So it would be anything less than 8. It could be 7.9, it could be 7, it could be 0, or any negative number. So remember, you have all those nice numbers, and you have all those messy numbers, those decimals and those fractions that could also be considered answers or solutions. So how about the next one? Again, we identify our inequality sign, so we know right from left, and we focus on the side that has the variable. And the opposite of minus is plus 5. And again, I always work left to right. So 12 plus 5 is 17. The inequality sign comes down exactly how you see it. The x comes down, and -5 plus 5 goes to 0. That's why we did it, so that we could cross it out. What's the difference between this first problem and the second problem? Your variable is on the wrong side. Okay, so when this happens, in order to make sure that we graph it correctly 100% of the time, we're going to pick it up and flip it. So I'm going to pick it up and flip the x on this side. If I pick my inequality sign up and flip it, that means it's going to be greater than or equal to, and the 17 will come over here. Again, these two things say the same thing, but this second one is easier for us to graph. So our answer goes in the center, 17. Again, it's positive, so 0 is back this way, so that means 16 is going to be there, 17, and 18 will be here. This time, this little bar underneath of here tells us that it is equal to. So is 17 equal to 17? The answer is yes. So that means we need to shade that dot in, because 17 is an answer or a solution. And then we can shade the way this inequality sign tells us to, which it's pointing to the right. So we will shade up to the right, and again, our arrowhead and our inequality should be the same. That lets us know that we shaded in the correct direction. So what are some solutions here? 16 is not shaded. It's not a solution. 17 is shaded. It's a solution. 17.5 is a solution. 18 is a solution. 100 is a solution because it would be somewhere in that shaded area. So we'll pause for a second and try these next two, and then I'll come back with the answers. Welcome back. How'd you do? So here's our inequality sign. The opposite of plus 5 is to subtract 5 from both sides. The y will come down. Plus 5 minus 5 will go to 0. Our inequality sign comes straight down. Here, my signs are the same. I will keep it and add, and I get negative 12. So negative 12 will go in the center. 0 is back here towards me because it's a negative number, so that's where we'll start counting. Negative 11, I'll go backwards to 12 and then backwards to negative 13. And you ask yourself the question, is negative 12 less than negative 12? The answer is no. So we should have an open dot because it is not a solution. And our inequality sign tells us to shade down to the left. And our arrowhead and our inequality sign are the same. The last example we had, again, identify that inequality sign. The opposite of plus is minus 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. The inequality sign comes down exactly how you see it. The t comes down, and the plus 3 minus 3 goes to 0, so we can cross it out. And again, our variable, t, is on the wrong side. So on this one, in order for us to graph it correctly, we're going to pick it up and flip it around. So I'll flip the t to the left-hand side, flip the inequality sign from greater than to less than or equal to, and the 5 will flip to the other side. Now my variable's on the correct side. I can shade the way the arrow is pointing. So 5 is here. 0 is back here. So that's where we'll start counting with 4, 5, 6. And ask yourself a question. Is 5 less than or equal to 5? The answer is yes. So that means that that dot needs to be shaded in because 5 is a solution. And then we shade the way the arrow is pointing, which is down, and we end with our inequality sign, should be the same.